your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
And welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.TV. Thank you for joining me this Friday evening. A lot of you know I was kind of worried about the whole 13th anniversary of 9/11. And, you know, I think it was justified worrying because we right now have open borders. We have that going on, drug cartels, Ukraine issue with Russia, and the kind of fighting back and forth between the Western and Russia, Europe and Russia, America and Russia, and then you have the whole ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's justified worrying because really the precautions taken to, you know, secure the safety for America's elite may be taken well care of, but we as educated people, as people that look at the world around us, realize that we're not protected. The everyday citizen, everyday person out there is not protected. So when you look at it, this has nothing to do with our safety. And when you have, you know, 13th anniversary coming up, it kind of, you don't know what's going to happen or if anything's going to happen. You know, really how I played it is I kind of just stayed away from paying attention to too much news. Did have my phone, so I could have got an alert if something major happened. I want to say hey to Vince in the chat room there. It's one of those things that I just look at it and say, hey, you know, we were never told the full truth about 9/11. There's a lot of gaps in the story. Building 7 kind of seems pretty suspicious, and when you look at a lot of the things that have come out, it seems that there's definitely something that is being hidden. I think it's what they use and play for the propaganda, and we know it's there, but I think a lot of people fail to remember, you know, what happened not that long ago. And we have a whole nother generation that's growing up that can't remember or wasn't around during that whole incident, didn't see the transformation of America. You know, think about when, you know, you were younger, parents talk about how, you know, it was when they were younger, and you're like, seems so far away. Well, we have a generation growing up with this. So when we say, that freedom, be like, it also came with the responsibility, We might have had more freedom back then, but we also, carried more responsibility for ourselves. That's what being free is. If you want to prosper in a free world, you have to be responsible for yourself and work to provide for yourself. So I think that really needs to be hashed into the memory of the youth growing up right now. I think it in the long run, it affects how they may shape their life. Thinking about a world that you had more freedom. And I know, always hearing stories of my dad always telling stories, or hearing stories from my mom. My dad would talk about going hunting. And, they would walk down the road with shotguns over their shoulder. Or go walking down the road to another buddy's place with, rifles. You didn't have people call the police. It just didn't happen. They weren't acting in a aggressive manner. They were just walking down the road. What do you do? We don't have that now. You try walking down the road. We have YouTube. We see what happens. And then you have these so-called pro-gun groups a lot of times come out and say, that makes gun owners look bad. That you would carry a rifle over your shoulder. Why? This is something that used to be common. They used to have the shotguns in their back windows of their pickup trucks. A lot of you remember the rifle racks in the back windows of pickups, I'm sure. It wasn't, a big deal to have a shotgun in your back window. Go hunting, go shooting in self-defense. I know here in Indiana, I know Texas, and a lot of other states in between, it wasn't a big deal. A lot of states out west wasn't a big deal. States out east, it wasn't a big deal. But we really have a society that a lot of these people don't remember that. And the ones that do kind of buy into the propaganda and rhetoric that, it'll make gun owners look bad. But I think the fundamental change is, if you are used to seeing people with guns, it tends not to make you so afraid all the time. And that's why, I kind of look at the issue of, Second Amendment advocates, activists out there with AR over their shoulder, on a strap, not doing any harm. But they have a gun, it's threatening. A gun is not threatening. A gun being pointed at you is threatening. And usually it's not the Second Amendment activists out there that are pointing the guns at you. A lot of times you might see it as the law enforcement. They tend to do it quite a bit too. But I have a couple clips here I want to play from We Are Change. I'll just play them back to back. And first one is new 9/11 survivor provides explosive new evidence. And the second one, where does the 9/11 truth movement go from here? And, you know, the truth movement has been definitely, 9/11 truth movement has definitely been infiltrated by people with all kinds of whacked out ideas of how 9/11 happened. But no matter how you believe 9/11 happened, I think there is a fundamental understanding that we are not being told the truth. And there are people out there that are trying to expose that we are not being, you know, told the truth, and here is the evidence that shows that. But I'm going to play these two clips, and then we'll kind of get into it. Give me a second.
This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org here in New York City on the 13th anniversary of 9/11. I am joined by Ricky, who is the survivor of 9/11. Ricky has a very amazing story. Can you tell us what happened to you on that day, 9/11, 13 years ago?
9/11, I was headed to Tower 2 to get somebody out after the first plane hit Tower 1. And as I approached Tower 2, I got to the doors, and I was holding the door handles to the lobby doors to Tower 2, and that's when I heard the second plane. And before I even turned around, I was like, oh my God, I'm dead. And everything went like slow motion after that. I turned around, and I watched this plane, the second plane, coming at me, slow. It was all, you know, I know that I hear now they're trying to say it was going real fast. It wasn't. And that plane did things that I've never seen any plane ever do. Swearing left, right, the wings up and down, and then came straight to me, over me, into the building, above me. It blew me back about 20 feet. By the time I regained, all the debris and everything was coming down. I happen to have cameras in my pockets. I don't really want to go into that because I've had pictures the day of the attack, many days after the attack, the very morning after the attack. I have pictures of the plane going in. I have pictures of the towers before the second plane went in, when it went in, and right after it went in, and after. And they're going to be released this Saturday at the 9/11 Awakening. Richard Gage and Les Jamieson. They're going to be released. They've never been shown to the public. I've made a decision. I'm letting them go. And I've chosen, I want to thank you. I can't believe I'm running into you. I want to thank all you guys. I shut down for about 11 years. And I want you to understand something. Thousands, tens of thousands of 9/11 survivors shut down after this. And I know it's hard to believe if someone stands here and says to you, I shut down for like 11 years. It took something else traumatic in my life that happened that shook it and opened up Pandora's box. And that's when I developed the pictures. I looked at them. I started going back. Believe me, when these pictures come out, everything you've been saying is going to be legitimized. And I know how dangerous it is. Yeah. But I don't care. We need to focus on the truth. It is what it is. I'm a survivor. And what you've been told, you've not been told the truth. Yep. That's all I have to say. I want to thank you guys for carrying the ball for us who shut down all these years. Couldn't deal with it. We had loss, injuries, pain. We've never been helped. And I know you know all about that. We're still suffering. Yep. We still have no help. I have screws from my brainstem to my tailbone. All I can say is, the other day, it was yesterday as a matter of fact, I was at the Voices of September 11th meeting, And I was shocked. I finally heard somebody say, they said 500,000 New Yorkers down in that area right now have severe depression and PTSD.
Yeah.
So I know the media and the government wants this to just go away, and I know they want us to go away. But Americans need to wake up that the next one's going to be worse.
Yeah. And if we don't expose the first one, there's going to be a second one and a third one. Yes, and I know from my personal work working with first responders, there's a lot of emotional issues, there's a lot of post-traumatic stress issues, there's a lot of health issues that have been just thrown underneath the rug. And the James Stroger Act is still being, upvoted right now if it's going to be renewed or even still enabled, which is something that we fought here very dearly for to get passed, which helps people like Ricky who are down there.
I live on medicines every day, Symbicort, Ambisol, nebulizers, prednisone, and that doesn't even deal with the pain from the breakage and everything. Yeah. And I can't thank you guys, honestly, because, as we sat in the background, we were traumatized. We couldn't look at anything, couldn't read anything, nothing, just shut down. You guys were out there putting your lives at risk, and you have no idea how much that means. No idea. We were in the background saying we wanted trials in New York. We want to bring it out. Let them speak. Let's hear what really is the deal here. We wanted 2 new towers built. We don't want this thing that's here now. Yeah. None of our voices have ever been heard.
Yeah, and it was common sense. The firefighters, the rescue workers, the survivors, the people who came down there to help, obviously, they needed proper medical treatment because the government lied and said the air was safe to breathe, which it wasn't. Ricky is a perfect example of that.
And masks.
They told people not to wear masks when the air was filled with asbestos. Now 30,000 people are suffering, and the government doesn't even have money to help real heroes, people who were there for this country when the country needed them most. And it's disgusting. And Ricky here is the real deal, because what you're saying to me and what you told me before, you got the scars to prove it. But also the stuff and the stories that you told me collaborate with all the other survivors that I know that told me about the same things, including about the explosions on the lower floors.
When the cell phones went out, that's when everything, the power went out. I had to climb like 99 sections to go get the employees after pulling people out of the trade center. And then I went back in after I got blown back because I had to get in there, as you know. And the explosions were going on inside the towers. It's true, there were explosions. Look, you know what? You know the saying, a picture says 1,000 words? These are going to say 1,000,000.
Wow. And, yeah.
Are you coming? Be there. Because I'm giving them away.
Yeah.
Most people after 9/11, they were like selling their pictures.
Yep.
I shut down. Yeah. So these are for you guys.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for you guys. You carried the ball for us. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Ricky. God bless you, brother. It really means the world to me. Thank you so much. Come out this Saturday, New York City, 2 o'clock. You will see some pictures and some evidence that you never ever saw before.
I'm going to bring you a chip with them on them. I'll give you a set too.
The information's coming out. Thank you again so much for watching. Pass this information on to your friends. Nobody else is doing this. This is not corporate-sponsored media. This is independent media run by you. Real people like Ricky are telling the truth. It's time we support them. Get this video out to everybody. Thank you so much. God bless you from the bottom of my heart. This is Gradowski of We Are Change.org in Times Square, New York City, and what you're watching right now is a Not 11 billboard in the middle of Times Square. I am actually joined by Richard Gage, founder of Architects and Engineers, the man behind the billboard, the man behind an organization that brought together thousands of professionals to question the official story of 9/11 and ask real important questions. Now, Richard, you're behind this billboard. You're waking up a lot of people here in the center of New York City. Can I just ask you, why Building 7? Why this video? Why do you think it's important for people to see here?
Building 7 is the smoking gun of 9/11. We've been deceived about 9/11. We've been deceived about Building 7. They told us it came down by fire. That's a lie. Every architect, every engineer, everybody else knows intuitively. They can look at Building 7, see it coming down suddenly, symmetrically, free fall acceleration, as fast as a bowling ball falling off the building. So that can't happen. You got 80 structural columns in there on each floor. Each one had to have been cut or explosively destroyed all at once on each of 8 given floors in order to bring this building down like that. So that doesn't happen by fire. But in fact, fire's never brought down a skyscraper ever in the 100-year history of skyscrapers. we've had 100 fires or so, much hotter, longer, and larger than the fires in Building 7. So we've got people's attention, Luke, when we talk to them about Building 7. Millions of New Yorkers will see this video. This is exciting. We raised thousands of dollars from our supporters to get this video up there. I mean, it's just perfect. They've got the opportunity to see it. They can respond to it. Very exciting. We've got NIST by the short hairs here.
And right now, the 9/11 Truth Movement has went through many different phases. I think we're into a phase where a lot of people, including Ron Paul, who recently came out and said that there was foreknowledge of 9/11, even Jake Tapper, who recently just 6 months ago was talking trash about you and your organization and the people who are fighting for the truth behind 9/11. He just came out recently and said that he supports a push for family members to get the classified documents unclassified that Barack Obama personally promised to family members that he would do, but he has still not done yet. We see CNN, we see Ron Paul, other people that I know personally are coming out saying, I am no longer afraid to talk truth about this, but it's been 13 years. Is it 13 years too long? Are we in a phase where it's too late to get the truth behind 9/11?
I don't know how these things work in the macro scale. I thought in 6 months, after talking to a few architects, they would all say, oh my God, you're right, that's a controlled demolition, and many of them did, but not enough. We have 2,250 right now, architects and engineers demanding a real investigation, of course, signed on to our petition. But I thought we'd have that many in the first 6 months. So I'm obviously naive. I don't know why people don't automatically get that the Twin Towers were blown up. Once we show them the evidence, they do tend to get it, but we can't get to enough architects, enough engineers, enough of the American people, which is why we're going to this billboard. I do think it's looking up. 4 years ago, we're out in the streets handing out literature. People are just, in general, not getting it, right? A lot of middle fingers and growls and grunts. Today, half the people we talk to are saying, oh yeah, I heard something about that. And half of those people are saying, I'm with you guys, yeah. And so, half of those people may have already signed our petition. As another, we have 20,000 others. So I think it is looking up. I mean, we've got some, we were on C-SPAN for 40 minutes, after all, giving this evidence to the American people, 3 million of them. Also, Jesse Ventura show, Alex Jones show, Coast to Coast, again last week, all three of those. We're reaching deeper into the culture of America. I can only hope that it's not another 8 years that we have to do this with 9/11 Truth. I enjoy it. I love waking people up. We need to find a way to make it go faster, though, Luke.
Yeah. We're definitely reaching more people than we ever have before, but will that translate into political action? It's really up to you. And one thing I have to say about Richard's organization, Architects and Engineers, it's not based on conspiracy theories. It's not based on anybody making up a different belief. You really put the science behind it, you put the expertise behind it, and you really do an excellent job presenting the information in a non-conspiratorial way, in a non-theory way, which has helped people wake up. Because honestly, being out here in 2003, 2004 at Ground Zero, we were spit at, we were beat up, we were harassed and assaulted just by questioning the official story. But now, with help from individuals like yourself, people could take it more seriously because there's a lot of more professionalism behind everything that you do. Now, not only are you doing this amazing billboard, but you're also doing other events here in New York City. Can you tell us about other things that you have going on other than just this billboard?
You bet. We started today, September 11th, at Ground Zero, handing out flyers, the alternative guide to the museum, what you will not see in the museum. Very exciting.
Go ahead. We'll continue going on. Go ahead.
Very exciting because the museum shows the official narrative and none of the evidence that is obviously evidence for explosive controlled demolition. So we include that in the alternative guide, and we followed that up with a press conference at Ground Zero in front of the Liberty Tower at 11 o'clock, giving all this evidence to the American people. We invited them to then come to the premiere of The Anatomy of a Great Deception, David Hooper's new exciting film that was inspired by the 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out DVD, which includes 43 technical experts in their fields, high-rise architects, structural engineers, metallurgists, chemists, physicists, all of them. And David Hooper took those clips and he put his own narrative in it from his own personal struggle with the information about 9/11, and because he was losing his wife, losing his friends. He didn't know how to talk to them about it. They weren't getting it. But once he made this film, they all got it. Now his wife is the film's biggest fan, and we had the world premiere in Detroit last week. This week we're right here in New York with it, and tomorrow we have we'll be right here under the billboard handing out flyers, rethink911.org. The evidence might surprise you. And Saturday, we have our own conference, 3 hours long. We'll have Mark Crispin Miller here, Wayne Mattson. We'll have William Pepper talking about the legal challenges, family members and survivors, all at Theater 80, 2 p.m. Don't miss it.
And you can find out more on Rethink 9/11 and also Architects and Engineers. The websites and links will be in the description below. I can't thank Richard for all the hard work that he has been doing, continuing the good fight for this movement. A lot of family members, a lot of rescue workers have been utterly shocked, but a lot of them stand with the message of asking questions and demanding answers. And there's no wrong suit in doing that, because in the world that we're living in, that is the only thing we have when it's filled with so many lies, so many deceptions, so many wars, so many horrible things. And it's up to people like yourself to take action. What Richard is doing, what we're doing, is we're waking you up. So share this message with as many people as you can. The movement, the truth, cannot die as long as we keep speaking it. Thank you again so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.
And thank you, Luke.
No problem. Thank you. God.
Now you can go to rethink911.org and check out some of that information, and you'll find links for architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, or whatever they are exactly. You know, there's a problem in society where if you question something like that, society automatically loops you in with the most outrageous conspiracy theories. When there's evidence right there, a lot of times right in front of their eyes, and they just cannot accept it. And that's the cognitive dissonance that is in society, and a lot of what people think to be knowledge are based on fallacies. Therefore, that's why I always say you constantly have to question what you believe. You know your conclusion, your opinions on certain things. That way, you're really staying true to your message. And I think that helps you live your life according to that message and that ideal and moral standard. And there's obvious issues with all of this 9/11 crap. And I think a lot of people fail to realize it. And so many things right now are just, they seem to be coming to a head. And I try to reach to every, paradigm, if you call it that, out there. Every, all the people, no matter what type of life you choose to live, there's something that is in common with everybody that has faith, and I'm not saying faith as in a religion or a deity, or a faith as in a moral grounds that no matter how you choose to live your life and how others choose to live their lives, that you don't have a right to abridge their rights. You cause no harm to others. Excuse me there. You start looking at this, and right now in society, you need to get to a point where we have that understanding that we are different. There's different cultures, there's different ways of living, but every individual has the right to live their life as they choose. If we can come together on that one thing, even in a collapse of the governmental society that is here, that there's enough people out there that have that knowledge, have that understanding, that they won't destroy that spirit. And I think there was one thing, positive that did come out of the whole 9/11 thing, is at that beginning, in that struggle, we'll come together. But the problem is too many of us trusted government. The air's safe. You can go in there. No mask. And we know that to be wrong. What we need to understand, that government in those situations are usually in the way and probably helping hide information, which we know that supposedly the black boxes were found and then they disappeared. There was witnesses that said they seen the black boxes. They found the black boxes, but then they said they didn't. But then they could find a passport. Kind of fishy information there. I have, this isn't exactly a short clip here, but there's something happening over in Scotland that, they are looking to become independent. This is something that's been brewing over in Scotland for a long time. And it's something that kind of pops its head up every once in a while. And you never know exactly what the outcome of it's going to be, if it's going to ever amount to anything. And there is definitely a global movement towards more localization. And I think that happening too in places upsets the government. So we already know that there is a lot of pushback against Scotland getting their independence. But Adam Kokesh put out a video, and you can find it on YouTube on Adam Kokesh's page there. But it's the importance of Scottish independence. And I'm going to play this here.
In the new section, News, Politics, Scottish Independence. What would independence really mean for Scotland's economy? And this story offers a very good overview of the situation, and essentially everything is economics, right? We've talked about that in terms of the core principle. Everything can be taken in lessons of value and exchange and understood through that. Is it voluntary or is it coercive? But there is a much bigger principle at stake here, and I kind of want to set the global context for this before getting into the details of this story, because it's so not just exciting to watch, because for those of us who are following the Western media, we heard about this months ago, but in a sense it kind of came out of nowhere, and now we're seeing, holy crap, the yes side is surging. But I've been talking about the global secessionist movement since 2011 on the TV show on RT, and the war against government, as I sort of in a silly way put it then, but you see what's happening throughout Europe with various countries wanting to leave the EU. You have separatist movements in Spain and South America, in the United States. In 2012, there was a huge tidal wave of petition signatures for individual states to secede at whitehouse.gov in their petition site. Of course, even the ones that met the threshold of 25,000 or whatever number of responses they required to have an official response, they were all ignored. And, there are distinct growing independence movements throughout the United States in various states, most notably the Republic of Texas, although you could also point to movements in Vermont, New Hampshire, the state of Jefferson, which would be southern Oregon, northern California. There's the move to have California broken up into 6 individual pieces. And, then there's the 51st state in North Colorado that we haven't heard about in the news for a while. So, that's just a few off the top of my head here in the United States. We know in Canada, I know when I was growing up, the Quebecois, the movement for a separate Quebec was a big deal with their separatist movement. And I think this is a growing historical trend. I'm sure all over the world, we've seen the unrest in China. I could go on. Catalonia, Spain is a really exciting one to watch. But when you have, in the modern world of the internet, an expectation of change, of intolerance for systems of inefficiency based on inadequate information, as those of us in the millennial generation, of which I barely qualify, might put it, or at least I think the attitude of the millennial generation has a certain just intolerance for arbitrary bullshit. Why should Scotland be a part of the UK? I don't know. Let's put it to a vote, shall we? And then that process can be repeated all over the world when there's a new standard of local governance. And in how I see this movement, Achievement of Free Society, taking governments apart from the top down, or localization, is the most essential part of that process. The question is, how deliberate and peaceful is it going to be versus like accidental and, dangerous and tumultuous and with a lot of social upheaval? Or is it going to happen through like independent secessionist movements? Or is it simply going to start with that? And a lot of people, when they saw the creation of the European Union, got frightened that there was this trend, and it was a major trend for consolidation of political power that we've seen, I don't know, in the last couple of centuries. Maybe you could go back millennia of America or of human history, but particularly in modern bureaucratic governments, when the EU was formed, there were the whispers of the North American Union, the Free Trade Union, of course, setting the stage for that, but the idea that Canada and Mexico and the United States would be joined under the Amero as a united currency. There was talk of an African Union, an Asian Union, all the different versions of the South American Union, and that if power continued to concentrate, we'd end up with a totalitarian one-world government or major world wars between major powers. But I being optimistic, and this sort of gets to my take in the long run of where we are historically with modern bureaucratic governments, I believe we are at the high tide of government. We are seeing the peak of this phenomenon. You might ascribe World War II as that point when there was the most global violence, if you determine the scope of government or the amount of government to be determined by the amount of violence being done in society. But I really think even now, in a more bureaucratic sense, the EU has seen its peak and has passed it. And with all the various currency turmoil there, it may be that the European central bankers went a little too far. And I'm not one to presume that they don't know what they're doing. No, not at all. And a lot, as a younger libertarian, I came into a movement where I turned around and was like, wait a second. You guys have been saying that the dollar is about to collapse for 40 years. And now you want me to believe that it's happening in the next 6 months, for sure. Okay. I'm skeptical of even that, libertarian chestnut of the dollar being about to collapse. I don't think they're as dumb as we think they are, although they may be as wicked as we presume if you understand the viciousness and the scope and the violence that comes from the fiat currency racket. But in the case of the European Union, it does seem like there is they have raped and pillaged through the monetary system as much as at least at a time as they're going to be getting away with for a while. And perhaps what we see in Ukraine and in Syria is a distraction from that, a way to get people to think that they need to frighten them essentially into needing stronger central authorities. The presence of the European Union and the story in Ukraine, to being absolutely essential to maintaining the peace and all of that. And if you think I'm just pulling this out of my ass, we'll jump ahead for a minute here and go to 21stcenturywire.com. The headline is Cameron, yes vote will make Scottish more vulnerable to Islamic terror. And the picture here is this great one of Cameron with his finger pointing and his mouth wide open, like, "Ah, be afraid, be very afraid." And of course, I'm reminded of the scene from V for Vendetta with the Chancellor going, "Remind them why they need us." Every time I do that, I screw my voice up. All right, so as ubiquitous, by the way, this is from 21st Century Wire. As ubiquitous political tools go, nothing beats the old terror threat. Oh, I thought political tools was referring to Cameron. My bad. Coming just 1 week after British PM David Cameron announced that due to the ISIS crisis in Iraq, the terror threat was being raised to severe. Cameron seems to be threatening Scotland with a wave of Islamic terror if the Scottish dare to vote yes on independence from London. And this is one of the things about the Scottish independence vote that is I think a very exciting dynamic. And if you go back and really understand the history of militarism and governments and imperialism, then it's very cool to point out that if Scotland goes independent from the rest of the United Kingdom, then they are no longer subsidizing British militarism, modern British imperialism. They're no longer paying for those nuclear subs. They're not just, bringing goodies into the economy without any cost. No, militarism, any kind of spending on the military or war, is a diversion from funds that could be spent on things that would improve your quality of life. And so they're getting to separate themselves from that. So what do they use? They use the fear now of terrorism. Clearly, Cameron was beaming with confidence from inside the Welsh castle, fortified specially for NATO's annual chest-puffing photo session and circle jerk so much that he's allowing the public to see his true colors, according to the PM. Scotland will be more vulnerable to terror attacks if it votes for independence on September 18th. So let's go to this link here. This is Bloomberg. Yes, and we appreciate 21st Century Wire bringing this with their colorful language. So here it is from the mainstream, Bloomberg.com. Cameron warns of terrorist threat if Scotland backs independence. Scotland will be more vulnerable to terrorist attacks in a, quote, very dangerous and insecure world if it votes for independence. A country with 5 million people. I mean, they can't figure out a way to protect themselves from terrorism. They need to therefore be part of this bigger militaristic racket that sends troops all over the world and couldn't prevent the 7/7 bombing. Couldn't see that one coming, even though, Dean, they were doing a drill that same day, just like 9/11, of the exact same thing, and totally saw it coming. And I mean, the insanity of this. Even and what's so sad is when you see this narrative behind the mainstream narrative, you might be tempted to think, well, you don't even have to know this. The official story is so pathetic. It's so obvious. But you expect, David Cameron can reasonably expect that most people in Scotland, and I'm excited to see they're not falling for this right now, but that they really believe that the government that didn't stop 7/7 from happening is necessary to protect them from terrorism. And you think they'd be eager to try something else if they just thought about that. But of course, the reason governments get away with what they do is because people don't think. Here's the quote, some more from Mr. Cameron. With terrorist threats and other threats, isn't it better to be part of a United Kingdom that has a top 5 defense budget, some of the best intelligence and security services anywhere in the world, that is part of every single alliance that really matters in the world in terms of NATO, the G8, the G20, the European Union, a member of the Security Council of the UN, all those networks and abilities to work with allies to keep us safe? Isn't it better to have those things and separate yourself from them? No, and the Scottish people aren't buying it, and it is so exciting to see that they are seeing through this, because they realize that having that spending go to that only, one, makes them more vulnerable, has a government that commits false flags, it gives them an incentive to encourage terrorism, and doesn't keep them any safer. But more importantly, I'd like to think, and I don't know. My mom was in Scotland recently. She couldn't quite get a sense of this. But if the people of Scotland are understanding that they don't hate us because we're free, because we're not in the United States and we're not in the United Kingdom, so I don't know why. What's the myth there? They hate us because we're British. What accent was that, other than retarded? Anyway, but they're not buying it. I'd like to think that part of the motivation to be independent is, yeah, your government sent our boys and our money into war with George W. Bush into Iraq. We don't want to risk that again. You know, yeah, you're the reason they hate us because of shit like that. Because of stuff like what I did in Iraq, you know, torturing Iraqis with the Marines. Hello? I hope that moral conscience is a part of the story. But let's get into the economics. Back to The Guardian. Alistair Darling seems to be a sucker for punishment. He was Chancellor of the Exchequer. Is that how you say it, Dean? Exchequer? On the blackest day of the global financial crisis in the autumn of 2008, when the Royal Bank of Scotland was forced to tell the government that its cash machines would run out of money within 3 hours. 6 years on, Darling has another exceptionally tough job, fronting the campaign seeking to prevent Scotland voting for independence on 18 September as the polls show support for his side slipping. In a faint echo of those turbulent days after the collapse of Lehman Brothers, the city has woken up to the possibility that the Scots will decide to go it alone. Sunday's YouGov poll for the Sunday Times showing the first ever lead for yes, albeit at a 51 to 49%, should clarify thinking further. The Bank of England has begun to drop contingency plans to cope with the potential fallout from the end run of a union that has lasted for more than 300 years. Now do you start to appreciate the incredible potential of the historical significance of this vote? And I'm very excited. This article is from Sunday, September 7th, when this first came out. It is now September 9th, 2 days later. The vote is coming up on the 18th. And this is one of those things where it's only going in one direction. You know, why do you feel like you need to be part of the union? Historical ties, identity bullshit, nationalism, whatever the case may be. You don't go back when you go, you know what? No, I'm good. I mean, it's like going back to an ex-girlfriend, right? Or an ex-boyfriend. You know you're not supposed to. And once you start going away, like most of the time it sticks. And that's what we're seeing with this yes no vote. It's not like a back and forth thing. It's a clear trend. When people realize that the union isn't in the best interest of Scotland, they don't go from like status quo to important change and then go, no, now I'm scared again. Oh yeah, David Cameron scared me talking about ISIS. Yeah, let's go back to being a part of the United Kingdom. No, I don't think so. So the narrowing polls raise the prospect of a divorce that could be long, complex, and bitter. The pound has been coming under pressure as it has become clear that the race is rapidly becoming a far closer call than anyone but diehard Scottish nationalists had ever envisaged. As Darling says at a visit in Aberdeen, in some ways it is a bigger challenge than 2008. This is about the future of the country in which I live. I don't want to take a leap into the unknown. That's it? That's the best argument? I know, it gets worse. But, yeah, I don't want the unknown. Let's stay with the current crappy situation. But I'm sorry, for the internet generation, it's just not going to work. And there's a lot of back and forth here in the story about how in different ways this could be good for the Scottish economy, bad for the Scottish economy, pensions versus military spending, blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to get too into all of the economics here, but one of the problems is austerity, which according to the story is a problem in a country where the real political fight is between the Scottish National Party and Labour, and where there is only one Conservative MP. Darling accepts that this is a factor helping the yes camp. Quote, there have been 6 years of austerity and people are looking for escape. They think that with independence, we won't have any of these problems. Now, you hear something like that and you go, Adam, these people are voting for independence because they want more welfare. And yeah, that's part of it. And if you think about it, if you think of welfare as an essential function of society of taking care of people less fortunate, then it's a good thing. If you think of it simply as a government program, yes, it's a bad thing. And if government is the way that people are doing it, then we would hope that government could at least be a better approximation of the market. And we know that in a market where, half of our income isn't stolen from us violently by government, at least as it is in America, we'd have a lot more money for charity. We would do a better job of taking care of each other than government sort of pretends to through the welfare state right now. So if people are saying, well, if we had a localized government as opposed to being part of this big United Kingdom government, we're going to have more ability to take care of each other, then I don't think that's a bad thing in and of itself, even though it's part of reinforcing the statist paradigm. And I want to really challenge myself here in saying that this is a good thing if it means that a separatist movement leads to more governance. I still think it's a good thing in going in the direction of local control, because ultimately the more local government is, the more voluntary it is, the closer to the people. So the currency question is a big deal. They're talking about maintaining a currency union and keeping the pound. There's some potential that they would go into the European Union. But there are a lot of unknowns with this, and it's not. I don't want people to also think that I'm getting my hopes up that all of a sudden there's going to be some radical change in Scotland. No, at first it's going to be pretty symbolic. Not a lot's going to change. It's going to be, like it says here, a long, potentially bitter divorce. So there's going to be a lot to be negotiated. It's going to be a slow process. But in having a vote and saying, at least in this collective way, hey, we will be independent. We will not be a part of this larger union. We demand what to them is at least relative local economy. Excuse me, is a big deal. The campaign for the for the no, by the way, is called Better Together, and they have these. It sounds like a peanut butter and jelly commercial, right? And they have these shirts, and it's like once it's been set up this way, it just seems like you're destined to lose. There's this funny picture with this article. Former Celtic player Bertie Auld at a no campaign event in Glasgow, and they've got all these like corny old politicians in collared shirts with red T-shirts over their dress shirts that say "I'm voting no" in bright yellow letters, and it screams negativity. But when you have a situation as complex as this, I think there's a lot of economic arguments that go one way or another, and for the average voter, they're not really thinking about that. Maybe they've got some vision in mind for practically how it plays for themselves, but I think I'm guessing, and from what my mom told me and from what I've read in the news, that they're looking at this more from, we have faith that we'll be able to do better alone, that we're not going to be paying for the militarism of the UK, we're not going to be part of this bigger racket, we're going to have even more independence. And, Scotland already has its own parliament and a lot of local control, but this symbolic, complete severing of ties is very important in the global picture in terms of localization. So I'll just read the last few paragraphs from here. Scotland would not face economic collapse or ruin. Countries much poorer than Scotland have thrived after independence, but it would not be a land flowing with milk and honey either. Gavin McCrone, author of a book on the pros and cons of Scottish independence, weighing up the economics, says, quote, Scotland could survive, but it would be tough in the early years. The fiscal position would be pretty tight. That looks unarguable. Even so, as decision day approaches, it has been the pro-union camp that has struggled to get its message across. Yes, those people that conquered us, we should stick with them. Yeah, they've been so kind. That becomes apparent when Darlene, enjoying a chicken tandoori in the light in Bengal and Aberdeen, a restaurant, is recognized and approached by the manager who wants to talk about the referendum. Now, this guy Darlene has a broader political background, so he's recognized by this manager. This is really important. So the man who has been the face of the Better Together campaign for 2.5 years is then asked, which side are you on? Darlene, a man of infinite patience, says through only the faintest of gritted teeth, I'm a no. That is, no to independence, yes to being part of a larger central government, maintaining the great union, and denying the virtue of local autonomy, control, and the general human trend towards a freer society. But humanity marches on, and it is so exciting to see. We will be watching with bated breath.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. There's a shift, I think, throughout the world, and it's a shift that needs to continue, that we do need to localize. A lot of people claim, oh, that's, being a nationalist. No, a nationalist would say, oh, we need to keep what we have. A nationalist, now that the EU has basically became one, that would be, we have to keep together. That right there is nationalism. Saying you want to bring the responsibility down to your local level is not being a nationalist. It's being a lover of freedom that understands that you need to consolidate it at your local level, at your personal level. You need to be able to govern yourself. You don't consolidate it into a group of people that now control even more area. That's the opposite. Transform it back into self-governance, your local community. And that also requires understanding individual rights. And a lot of people will always say, yeah, the Bill of Rights. Well, not the Bill of Rights. Beyond the Bill of Rights. Natural rights that every individual has. A lot of these natural rights you can find in almost every species on Earth. Which basically you will find in every species on Earth. Every species has a right to self-defense. A plant creating a defense against things that try to harm it. Evolving. When they say you don't have a right to self-defense as an individual, they're saying you don't have that right to evolve. To, as an individual, to seek out those ways that are better to protect yourself. And what you find is a lot of times, that's because they fear that ability. If you were better able to protect yourself at home, you were better able to put the things in place to do that, they wouldn't be able to no-knock raid everybody, including innocent people, which has happened a lot. So we definitely have an issue where your natural right to self-defense is being abridged. And every animal has that right. Every plant has that right. Every species on Earth has that right. That's a natural right. And they want to abridge your natural right to evolve. And that's basically because they work off of that caveman mentality. I'm bigger. I know better. I hit you with club. Except through innovations, because of the ability to exercise their freedom, there have been more weapons made. There's been more technology put into this. And so now, instead of beating you with a club, they have the ability, if they choose to use it, to launch weapons from a drone. And they say that you shouldn't be able to have a weapon. the same people that took out 2 Americans without any due process. Well, they were overseas. They were part of a terrorist group. Oh, well, one was the son looking for his father. Why? They don't tell you that part. Maybe because he was trying to figure out what happened to his father, what his father was doing, if what he's hearing is true. It was done at a separate time, too. They targeted him, too. No trial. But you should own a gun. But there is a fundamental transformation going on in society in the minds of individuals that understand and love freedom, that there has to be this paradigm shift, because for, how many, people can say 40, people can say longer, that we've been headed towards tyranny. Eventually, there has to be a shift. What we, by putting, this information out there, talking about these things, what we are trying to do is wake up enough people that we can do it in a peaceful way. That we have a firm understanding on humanity. And the way we fight real crime towards other individuals is to understand the non-aggression principle. Because when you do that, not only do you stop the crime between individuals, you stop the crime from groups of individuals that seek to rule over others. And this isn't going to be something that's easy. This isn't going to be something that happens overnight. And, I see a lot of hardcore libertarians when it comes to their ideology and their practices too, that say, the minarchists, they believe in the Constitution too much. Well, that might be true. They may be in that state of mind where they kind of have that worship of the Constitution. I think the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, this stuff is extremely important. This is historical things. This was, in that time, for that culture, a paradigm shift. And that is important. And I think if we get, more constitutional with our government, we become freer and we wean ourselves off of this government. But I'm not a constitutionalist. I'm a libertarian. If we followed the Constitution, we still would not have enough freedom. Because the Bill of Rights does not outline all of your rights. They go, well, that limits the federal government. Well, maybe we don't need the federal government. Maybe we shouldn't have a standing federal government. Maybe we should have a coalition of states after we've become that constitutional America, as you would call it. maybe then we go, well, now states are being able to hold their own, and they don't need us anymore. Maybe it becomes a coalition of states where there is no standing federal government. And then states, in a time of need, can come together to help each other. Because what is it? It's individuals coming together to help each other. It's not this made-up entity. It's individuals coming together to help each other. When you start reducing the need for a governmental body over you, you become more civilized. You understand that working together is something that you need for each individual to be able to prosper. There are people out there that could survive on their own. I understand that, but most people want interaction. That's something they feel they need. And what if you aren't able to provide everything you want? You're able to provide what you need. It's just you don't have the resources to do what you want. But you have a lot of what you already need, and you can spare some of that. Maybe your garden just did awesome. You got all kinds of vegetables and food. Trade some of it. That's interaction. You don't need government to tell you to do that. And a lot of times you find out government prevents you from doing that. Now, do I think we would ever get to that type of society in my lifetime? No. It'd be nice. I won't say it can't happen. The possibility is there. But I don't think it will happen. Adam claimed in that we might be at the peak of this governmental control and this consolidation of power into these real small groups in charge of real large areas. I don't know. What do you think? I will open the phone lines right now and accept calls. 718-717-8296. 718-717-8296. Again, if you have me on Skype, you can reach me there. We'll take your calls. Do you think that we are reaching the height, the peak of governmental control and consolidation of power into the hands of the few instead of into the hands of the individual? Are we going to start reversing course? Do you think society is reaching that point? Do you think it's happening more worldwide? Do you think it's happening in America? Maybe other countries that you see that might be ahead of us on that? Because, I can make put my opinions out there, but, we do need the conversation. We need to maybe see examples of how to do it correctly, maybe, examples of this definitely doesn't work and it's been tried multiple times. There have been people throughout history that have really fought against the consolidation of power, and their writings, their words, their teachings, their understandings, their opinions are all out there. And it's really important that you as an individual go out there and seek it. Frederick Bastiat, read some of that. Murray Rothbard. There are so many sources. Even, read Ron Paul's books if you want a good introduction into maybe some of the thinking. Now, he seems to be pretty libertarian in some of his books while he was running. He kind of approached things from a constitutional view with a little libertarian flair in there to kind of give you a better understanding. But I think Ron Paul is probably, for anything modern day, the closest thing to a true libertarian that you'll ever see in politics. Definitely now with them pushing Rand Paul, his son, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee. Not saying that they don't have a lot of good ideas, but they definitely are not true libertarians. There was a lot deeper rooted libertarians that came out of the Ron Paul movement. And during the Ron Paul, revolution, 08, 012, there was a fundamental shift that went from a lot of them, including myself, were constitutionalists. And then through the debating, through the years of conversations, talking, really going at a lot of these issues, a lot of us became a lot more libertarian. Because of, some of the fundamental arguments, a constitutionalist will argue with someone that says, we should have, food stamps because it helps the people. It helps them survive. It protects them from starving. Right there. It protects them. They will not starve. And then a constitutionalist, no, that's welfare state. But then they'll turn around and make the argument, we should, tax you, rob you of money to pay for national defense because that'll protect you. When we've paid for national defense and 9/11 still happened. You can get more draconian, but it doesn't protect us. Just puts us in more harm's way. Well, you take that same logic, well, that's the welfare state on defense. Then in return they say, well, then you don't have right to your individual right to self-defense. Hold on, no, that's the right. You as an individual and you as a collective of individuals do not have the right to take my rights away when I haven't harmed anybody. I merely want to protect myself. I've never forced anything on anybody, never held anybody, abridged their rights, or even if they haven't, made reparations for what they've done. I robbed that person, but, I got caught. I did time and I paid them back for it. Or I went over there and, had a conversation with the person and made up for it, we've seen, that happen before where people have felt bad about what they did. When a, real bad time of need, they did something they felt bad for. And they've left a letter. There was that gas station clerk that was getting robbed, and he pulled out his own little toy and had the robber at gunpoint, and the guy begged for his life, and the clerk actually threw him some food and told him to get out of there and threw him some money. And then in return, he got a letter in the mail from that guy. He ended up getting out of there with like $40 worth of food and money. And the guy sent him $50 back in a big old letter and thanked him. And, you know, there's humanity out there, even among people that are struggling. Look at Detroit. Can you imagine? Look, crime's up. People are stealing. Yeah. I wonder why. And that's what we want to try to prevent around the country and really around the world, is people being put in those situations where all your rights are taken away. You have to depend on the system that has been created for you to be a part of, where they say you fit in. They build you up, and then they disappear. They stop providing. Now, imagine generations, 2-3 generations. The next generation that comes along, and the next generation, they're growing up in a system. They're not joining the system from a freer society. They're entering the system. That's all they know. The only thing they know is living in that system. And after, just maybe 3 generations, a lot of those talents are lost. And then you put them at ground zero again. They don't have that system disappears. No longer do they have all the public services, fire department, police department, garbage disposal, snow removal, road repair, sewer repair, water repair, electric. That just disappears within a few years. And then you go, well, that's a high crime area. I was looking at photos of Detroit, and I've talked about these ones before. It kind of broke my heart looking at them, and it was showing, not only in the so-called white communities, but also in the minority communities in Detroit. And there was pictures of, I believe it was the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then present. And some of them were maybe only 80s, 90s, and present. And what did I see? I seen, no matter what community it was in, kids riding bikes up and down the street, playing baseball out in the street, playing basketball. And then it went to present, and it's shady-looking individuals. Not all of them are shady. A lot of them don't have running water or a livable house, what most people would consider livable. They're basically kind of going back to Stone Age, and they live in whatever building they can find that protects them until it starts falling down around them, and they go find somewhere else until it falls down because, well, they don't own it, plus they don't have money to fix it up. They don't have the equipment around to fix it up. So there's definitely a lot of major issues going on when it comes to that. You have a society that it was majorly depend on the whole system, whether it be the corporate or the governmental. They didn't worry about garbage disposal or snow removal or mail service or, they had a police department. They had all these things. They had it all, and they were dependent on it because of corruption. Corrupt individuals tell you not to worry about anything. We'll take care of it all. While individuals that want a free society are going to tell you, take life by the reins. You are in control of your life. Be creative, prosper, hold on to humanity. You know, that whole karma thing, help people out because it'll come back. Some people call it pay it forward. But it's the same concept, karma. That's a term that was coined, but karma was coined, and whatever you want to call it. That social interaction between you and that community around you. We as a society have to fundamentally change how we're approaching life. You know, you don't see the block parties like you used to. You don't see the family structure like you used to. You don't have that parent and child bond like you used to. In a lot of cases. Not everybody, but in a lot of cases. There's a lot of things missing in society, and we have to be the ones that change our lives to better the world. And, you know, some people be like, you know, being offended, you know, isn't an excuse, and it's not. Absolutely not an excuse to try to stop someone from doing what they do just because you're offended. But as a person, you know, it's one thing if they go, you're wearing a cross on your shirt, and I don't like religion, therefore you shouldn't wear a cross because it offends. No. But as maybe someone that believes in the Christian religion might say, well, I'm not going to go out on the street corner and preach it because I choose not to try to force this information on people. If you want people to come to you, you can set up something where you are counseling people, or you're giving them religious advice, or just a group of people that get together. Not saying you don't have the right to go out on the corner if you choose to do that, but you might offend someone. They might get loud with you. You might get loud with them. It could escalate. Now, hopefully, you wouldn't allow it to escalate on at least on your side, and you'll be in the right. Most people won't escalate it. They get mad and walk away from each other, but sometimes it could become violent. And that doesn't help society. That and two people walking away from a situation having hate for that interaction, and then that kind of, well, that's how all Christians are. No, I know a lot of Christians that aren't, that are very open about understanding your viewpoint on your religious or non-religious outtake on life. You know, I work with some of them, and they're good people. Might not agree with them on everything, but they're good people, and we don't fight over it. Because we still have that fundamental understanding of the right of the individual. And we don't ever present any of our views to each other in a negative way. It's not argument, it's not a fight. It's an expression, and that's it. I do want to move on here. And let me see what we have here. Okay, I've seen this one earlier, and I kind of wanted to cover it. And we actually see this happening more and more once it pops up here. Okay. And this one's out of the freethoughtproject.com. And it's titled, Police Chief Shocked by Video of Officer Confronting Man Filming Arrest. And I think I'll play the video clip first and then tell you what Kathy Lanier said about the video. And this is out of D.C. But I want to play this interaction here. And to mention, I'm looking at this, and the guy's probably at least 50 feet away, somewhere in there. So he's not close to the incident. He's down the street a little ways with his camera out. And a skateboarder just skateboarded right by him. They didn't look at him or say a thing to him. Cops walking towards them. Two of them are.
How you doing?
Hi.
You with him? Not at all? Okay. Got an investigation going on over here. You want to be a part of it?
No, sir.
I would suggest you pack up and go. Right?
Stay on the sidewalk, sir.
This is not public. Right?
Officer Reynolds, I think it is a public sidewalk. I'm not interfering at all.
We have something going on here. You're videotaping an investigation.
I believe I'm allowed to be staying on the sidewalk, sir.
Come over here with me.
Please don't touch my bicycle, sir.
Come over here.
I'm right here. I don't care to get any closer. Thank you.
This can be evidence in this case. You understand that, right?
All I did was see some police on a guy, and I thought I would pull out my phone. If you're not comfortable with that, it's a public sidewalk.
You know what? I got to interview you. Do you have an ID on you? Because we had a call for a bunch of people fighting with sticks.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to sit here and videotape, that makes you part of the investigation, sir.
Sir, I've been videotaping for 1 minute 47 seconds.
Got it. And that all this just happened within that time.
Officer Reynolds, you're 3983,
yep.
Correct?
You have an ID on you?
No, I don't.
Okay, what are you doing down here?
Bicycling.
Okay, so what is your involvement in this?
I was just concerned, sir, so I stopped. Concerned for everyone.
Are you part of this for the people fighting?
No, why would you have a reason to think that?
That's what the radio call was for. We have a lot of people. We got a call for a lot of people fighting with sticks. Do you have an ID on you?
Involved? No, sir.
Yes, sir, I am. Do you have any ID on you?
Would you like to know my name? Because I'll tell it to you.
Do you have an ID?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Andrew Heining.
Okay, where do you live at?
Northeast.
1011. Everything's okay. We're gonna try to resolve this one custody right now.
But just with all that's gone on with police, I think it's better to be recording. And I actually learned recently that the D.C. Police Department was thinking about wearing body cameras.
Yeah, I'm for them.
So that all this. So this is basically what that is. Just making sure everyone knows that what's going on here is public and like we see it.
One by.
I don't want to interfere at all, and I apologize if it feels like I am.
Negative. I was advising this gentleman because I guess I'm an officer and I don't know the law.
1022.
We got a call for. What was the call for, guys? A bunch of people fighting, right?
Sticks.
He's videotaping, so that makes him part of the investigation, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have anything to do with that, sir?
No, sir. I saw a lot of police cars.
Can you do me a favor? Since you're on the sidewalk, can you go by? You know where the bicycles are at?
You want me to go over there? You want me to
get the side?
10 yards that way?
Side. Yeah. What you need to do is not block the passage.
Okay.
Go over there and.
It doesn't appear that I'm blocking the passage right now, sir. I'll get over here if you like. I mean, I'll back it up, but I don't believe I'm blocking anything.
Okay.
So long as the trees aren't blocking anything.
All right. Good here?
I mean, I'd like to.
Do not approach us while we're conducting the investigation.
The video shows I've been standing here.
Sir, you can record whatever you want to record, standing right here. When we're over there.
But not right there where that officer
No,
is.
not there.
Sir, we got a call for a bunch of people fighting with sticks and weapons. You are videotaping.
Do you have a description?
Stop talking, please. You are videotaping this crime scene, right? This is a crime scene. You're videotaping it right now. That makes you part of it. And your little camera phone, that could be used as evidence. Do you understand? Actually, you know what? I'm taping off this.
What was his name again?
Dang it, sir, you don't understand what's going on here.
I don't understand. I'm just watching. I'm not approaching anyone. I'm just watching.
Sir, I'm blocking off this whole block. Can you please move it over here?
Where would you like me to move?
To the right by the street. This whole block is going to be taped off for a crime scene. Thank you very much.
You want to show me where to go?
I sure can.
Okay. We'll go this way. Tell me when to stop.
All the way to the curb.
Well, I can't stand in the street, sir. That's not safe. You know that.
Oh no, I'm not going to block off the whole sidewalk. Don't worry.
Just wherever I want to be. Seems kind of silly to me. And I'm not interfering. I'm walking. It just seems like you're all worked up about something.
Here we go. If you could just stand right here, I appreciate it.
Officer, have a good day, okay?
I've been watching this whole thing. They stopped him from videoing this from down here. Put it on YouTube because they didn't want. Yeah, I'm good. I want to be a star. Hey, because they didn't want anybody to see what was going down. He was just videoing this thing, and he wasn't doing anything wrong. And it was like 8 people jumped on this one dude.
Did you see what happened before that?
Yes.
What happened before that?
Before that.
Why did they jump on him?
Because he was a homeless dude.
Was he fighting with sticks? That was what they said he was doing.
I didn't see no sticks.
Okay.
I just know that he needs some medication.
Okay. I'm sure they're good at their jobs. I'm sure they'll determine that.
Yeah. You know, they will put him on the medication. But as far as what you was doing, I didn't see anything doing wrong. You know, I'm not from D.C. I'm just visiting, and I didn't see him doing really anything
Did you see them
wrong.
tell me to get off the public sidewalk because they thought I was interfering in some way?
This is a public sidewalk. Why are you interfering if you're on the public sidewalk?
I don't know,
if you
man.
on private property, it would have been different.
I'm just trying to make sure there's
I
a...
appreciate it. Just remember, this is the official police line. If you do cross it, you will be arrested. Thank you.
No, I'm not going down that way. I'm going
I remember
down
that guy from high school. Remember that guy from high school?
No.
Seems like he's still on the football team to me.
I don't know. I didn't play against him on football.
He looks just like a guy I went to high school with.
No. I'm sure I would have ran over him if I was running back and he was a linebacker. It don't look like he was that tough.
All right, take it easy.
All right. Hey, man. You too.
YouTube it, he did. And in this article it says, DC Police Chief Kathy Lanier said she was shocked by a video that shows an officer confronting a citizen who was filming an arrest on a public sidewalk. We have an extremely clear policy that addresses the Metropolitan Police Department's recognition of the First Amendment rights enjoyed by not only members of the media, but the general public as well, to video record, photograph, and or audio record MPD members conducting official business while acting in an official capacity in any public space unless such recordings interfere with police activity. Lanier said in a statement, "We spent an extensive amount of time to ensure that members were aware of the policy developed in 2011. Which it's BS that they would have to have a policy to outline your First Amendment rights. It's already there. You don't have to write it down twice. You know, come on. Says here, Andrew Heining, a mobile engagement producer at the Washington Post, shot the video on September 7th outside the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library shortly after he begins filming. An officer identified as C.C. Reynolds approached him and tells him to pack up and go. Heining questioned the officer's directive and remained on the sidewalk. You are videotaping this crime scene, right? That makes you a part of it, and your little camera phone could be used as evidence. You understand, Reynolds said. And this is out of, I got it out of the Free Thought Project, but it's out of DCIST.com, and they have the link to the full article there. And, you know, the simple fact that they write it down twice, there's an issue there. You know, at the factory that I do work at, I looked at the owner, and there was a sign put up by one of the managers or something, and it said, when cutting product, make sure conveyor is not in the way of saw blade. Think about that. Make sure you're not basically cutting into a metal conveyor with a circular saw. There's an issue when you have to have a sign like that. If you have people that are doing this, maybe they aren't caring enough, maybe they are not knowledgeable enough to be doing this job. And someone did post that video in the chat room for everybody. Thanks, Hunt. It's one of those things that I'm always looking at these problems that keep popping up, and it's like writing it down multiple times over and over again does not solve the problem. Paperwork does not solve the problem. Even how much I respect the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, in the end, it is a piece of paper. It's the action of people that make the difference. And it's the action of freedom-loving individual people that understand what a true free society is. Their actions, I think, count the most. And the title of the article from the freethoughtproject.com is Police Chief Shocked by Video of Officer Confronting Man Filming Arrest. You can also find it at DCIST.com. The video on YouTube is DC Police Officer C.C. Reynolds. And I posted the video in the chat and the name of the video too, so there we go. I think I hope that we're reaching a paradigm shift, and this next article, I think, kind of really exposes this whole paradigm shift where the elite aren't even trying anymore. If you haven't noticed, Jay Carney is now going to be on CNN. Not even trying. We'll put Jay Carney on our network. We're not propagandists. And I have one here out of benswan.com. And it's Ben Swan on Jay Carney's move to CNN. He's a propagandist. Well, yeah, we definitely know this. And I'm just going to play the clip.
Lots of opinions to support this action on U.S. networks. It's almost as if some commentators' words come right out of the White House. Oh, wait, that's because some contributors are right out of the White House.
It's a tough challenge because we are a war-weary nation, but I think the case is compelling for why we have to take this action.
Jay Carney, former spokesman for President Obama, is now getting paid by CNN to tell America and the world what he thinks. It's funny because when he was at the White House, he didn't always have an opinion or many answers.
It would be wholly inappropriate for me to have answers to those questions. I don't have them, and I have to refer you to the Department of Justice. And I would refer you to the Pentagon. I refer you to the Defense Department, so I would refer you to that statement. But I refer you to them. I would refer you to them. I refer you to the Treasury, refer you to HHS or CMS. I would refer you to the intelligence community, but I would refer you to the agencies themselves. I refer you to HHS. I have to refer you to the Secret Service. And I refer you to the State Department.
Joining us in the now is Ben Swan, a media analyst and independent journalist. Thanks so much for being with us. Having a bit of fun here in the now, but seriously, how common is it that a White House official goes to work for a news channel to comment on policy?
Actually, it's becoming very common. That's maybe the most alarming thing about this. Jay Carney's move to CNN, the headline in Huffington Post and on benswan.com yesterday was, "Who's surprised?" No one. No one's surprised that he would actually make this move. Why? He's actually just one of a long line of press secretaries who then takes a high-profile job at a major U.S. network. Dana Perino over at Fox News was with President Bush. David Axelrod has done it. There's a long line of these folks who do this as their next career.
What's in it for Carney?
Well, obviously a big fat paycheck obviously is always nice, but also it allows him to continue to push forward ideas that this administration wants out in the public spectrum. Obviously, he's a believer. He believes in what this president is doing. And in this position, now he comes off not as a spokesman for the president, but, an analyst, as a pundit. But he's not. He's just a spokesman for the president who's now not wearing a tie. That's the only difference between what he was doing behind that podium in the White House to where he is today over at CNN. I mean, if you saw the exchange last night between John McCain and Jay Carney, I'm sure CNN loved it. They said it was this showdown between McCain and Carney. It wasn't. It was two guys arguing over something that was almost arbitrary instead of talking about the real issues to deal with ISIS.
Why is CNN fleshing out so much cast? I mean, why would they hire someone like Jay Carney?
Well, why does Fox hire Dana Perino? Why does MSNBC hire David Axelrod? They hire these guys simply because they fit, again, the political agenda, which is here's someone who has lots of contacts, someone who has lots of access, and they'll be able to get us all these exclusive stories and bring all this fresh insight, and they have a kind of a hint of celebrity to them. When in reality, they're just propagandists. That's what they do in their official capacity, working for the White House, and it's what they transfer to do. Listen, it's not about, hating on these guys taking these positions, but they're not journalists. Jay Carney was at one time a journalist, but he gave up that role when he went to work for the White House.
What does this say about modern politics and the media? Just briefly, Ben.
All right. Sure. Well, I think what it really comes down to here is that media in the United States really, for the most part, does not care about journalism. They care about, the idea of celebrity and access, and that's what these guys represent.
All right, Ben Swan, media analyst, independent journalist. You can check out his work at benswan.com.
Okay. Propagandists, absolutely. And like you said, even if he was a journalist before, when you take that position and then go right out of that position while Obama's still in office into a journalist, or you become a contributor that's linked to administration, you basically are nothing but a propagandist. even if you are trying to give what you believe to be the truth, you're a propagandist. I guess you call me a propagandist for liberty because, well, I guess you can't because I don't make up things. I just really give you the facts and then give you how I view the facts. And I never claim to have an answer for everything. But I do have an understanding that there has to be that fundamental change in the individuals and the communities and the local, because we can't attack this at the federal level. We can't attack this at the United Nations level. These are people that are in control of everything. When your president goes to the UN before he'll go to Congress, he's not even close to hiding that. He's not acting for you. He's acting for the people that claim control. And that's basically what the UN is a attempt on a world government. And they really have to fight against the big countries that are doing well, better than America in a lot of ways. You look at, China, Russia ain't doing extremely bad. They might not be doing well, but they're not hurting. They're not going from booming to the extreme to nothing working out for most people. You look at this and you go, okay, this is a world government trying to fight other attempts at world governments, really. And none of these actions are being done for you. So it's up to the individuals to change their mindset, change the way they interact in society, change the way, one thing to do is be that helpful person in society. Be that person that shows the humanity, that can reach out and help people, but in the process, show them why you do it. Me saying government help out the poor does not help out the poor. This is something that we all should understand by now. But when you go out there and give the poor a pair of shoes, a coat, that helps out the poor. When you and a group of people come together and open up a soup kitchen, that helps out the poor. A shelter, that helps out the poor. And it's always been proven that the individuals and the organizations do it better than the government. The people that actually care do it because they care. They want to help improve society, do the best job. And that's not saying you should be forced to do it, but you also should have some will to do it. And that's why I do what I do. I have a will to try to wake people up. And it's really evolved into a situation where a lot of times I get on these rants, and some people might call it preaching, and it's become about how we as individuals, definitely liberty, freedom-loving, voluntarist, libertarian type people, can come together. All arrays of life can come together. A lot of people will go, well, I don't want to donate to them because they're all about religion. Religious people are going, oh, I don't want to donate to them because they're all liberal type people or non-religious type people. How about you don't donate to either side? You come together and create that organization where you're not bringing religion into it. You're not bringing the non-religious views into it. It's simply about helping others. A lot of people, oh, everybody should help themselves. Yeah, they should. Absolutely. But what we find out is when you're put in the system, and a lot of us are in the system and have been in the system, and we do have a reliance, we need to create a society where we can lose that reliance. A lot of that has to do with your local community, your local state, standing up for your rights. Definitely when it comes to a lot of these bureaucracies that are regulating people into the system. Big corporate companies can afford the permits, the license, and all that, but you as an individual can't start up a company and be able to afford those permits and license to even attempt to get your business up and running. They've created a system where you're regulated out of the ability to rise above. Now it's not completely eroded. There's small pockets everywhere, and there's chances, and that's what we try to convey to people is don't lose hope that there's still pockets there, and the more people that take advantage of those pockets of freedom left and prosper from it and understand what freedom and liberty are, that puts them in a better position to fight against the tyranny. Because there are people and groups of people out there that their goal is to not allow you to ever reach what they are. We have a small chance to start reversing this. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And I think the first thing that needs to happen is the infighting between constitutionalists and more hardcore libertarian type people. I kind of started getting into it where I started kind of constitutionalist because I started kind of understanding that, well, the Constitution might be good up to that point, but then should we stop evolving as a civilized people? I don't believe so. I think that it's a stepping stone and that's it. But we're not even close to that point yet. And if a constitutionalist could say that me wanting to become freer than what the Constitution, me wanting to see the society evolve past it, maybe there's things in the Constitution that might need fixed. That way we can make that a stepping stone and not something where you get to that point and you as a civilized people stop evolving towards a more freer society where individuals eventually do govern themselves. And your full ability to express yourself through your natural rights. We need that point eventually. That's what the human race, I think, depends on. When the world understands those principles, and the world holds those who try to oppress and walk all over the natural rights of every individual, when the world's willing to stand up against those people, not allow them to do that, it's not allowing them to be free. They can hate as much as they want, but it's when they start using force against people and their property and abridging the other people's rights that they step over that bounds. When society understands that, we have officially had that fundamental transformation in the evolution of the human race. I wish I could be alive to see it. I don't think I will ever be close to being alive to see that. So it's definitely a dream, but I don't think it's an impossible dream. But it depends on, again, the people being able to wake up. Not allow fear to rule you. And, you'll see this a lot of times, and you might not realize you're seeing it. But you ever watch maybe morning shows on regular TV? I know that a lot of the listeners try not to watch TV, but there's some out there that might. You see the people doing extreme things in extreme places, and they're traveling the world because they don't have that fear. They've found an opportunity because they've shed that fear in a portion of their life that allowed them to experience more, to create, to be innovative. And when you look throughout history, the most innovative things came from when someone was free to exercise their rights, to explore. That's something that we're definitely losing here in America. As your rights are consolidated into the hands of the few, so is your creativity. So is that spark that's in everybody. Every day that goes on after this, look at maybe other people that you go, oh, I wish I could be doing that. Wish I could be making that type of money. And go, what's stopping me? And every time you'll find out it's fear. I don't want to try to take that risk. I don't know if I know what I'm doing. Research it. It might not happen that year. Might not happen in the next couple of years. But let's say you research it for 3 years. You get common with what you have to do. You might not have that fear anymore. You might take that attempt at something because you have more knowledge of it. When you find out true knowledge and the ability to seek that knowledge from multiple sources, that freedom of information, and that knowledge growth allows you to shed fear. I think that's what's happening around the world with the internet, where people have access to the internet and where they have free access to all kinds of information on one subject from different viewpoints. Some places they have to hack around that stuff to be able to find alternative outlets of information. But when you find it, when you have multiple views, you tend to have a different outlook on life and a different outlook on who you might want to be, who you must become, what you must do to secure your freedom. And people that understand natural rights, understand freedom, understand the non-aggression principle, I think those people are growing. And I think eventually, as long as it keeps growing, we will have that fundamental shift. Thank you for tuning in to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.TV. Stay tuned for all the great broadcasts coming up after this. Have a great weekend. Catch you next week. Take care.